James Cleverly, did your aide, James Sunderland, tell you that he thought the Rwanda plan was crap before he said it?
So I saw that headline, I was quite surprised, because I know James has been very supportive both of me personally and of the policy. And of course, I've had a conversation with him, and I've also heard the recording. And it's clear what he's doing is he's putting forward a very counterintuitive statement to grab the attention of the audience.
It's pretty counterintuitive to say your government's flagship policy is crap.
But if you actually listen to what he then went on to say, he was saying that the impact, the effect is what matters. And he went on to say that the deterrent effect we've seen working in Australia, which has an analogous policy. He also said that when the first flights take off, it will send a shockwave, his words, a shockwave across the channel, sending a very, very clear message to the people smugglers and the people putting themselves in the hands of people smugglers. So what we've seen actually is, I mean, he did it clearly for dramatic effect to grab the attention of the audience, but he is, and it's clear in the recording, completely supportive of the deterrent effect that Rwanda policy has.
Are you sure? Because there's another way of interpreting exactly what you've just said, which is that his first reaction was his real reaction, and then what he then went on to explain is how the government justifies it, which is a whole different story. And the reason I'm asking you that is that we wonder whether he was talking for himself or whether he was talking for you as well, because it is also reported, or is reported, that you were equally scathing about the policy, using words that I can't repeat on the family programme, but were adjacent to mental.
So this is what Yvette Cooper has alleged that I've said. Now, she has a vested interest in undermining
it doesn't matter.
the policy.
Is it true?
And she hasn't. And the point is, she's never given any indication of where I said it, who I said it to.
The one person who knows whether you said it or not is you.
Yeah,
did you or not?
No. And okay. the point I've made is where I have expressed frustration, when I have expressed frustration about the policy, is at times I felt there was a focus on that to the exclusion of everything else. And the Rwanda policy is important, but it was always part of a toolkit of responses to this, including the returns agreements that we have with a number of countries, including Albania, including the creation of the Small Boats Operation Command, which Yvette Cooper, I think, is going to recreate. So her headline
Border
policy...
Security Command.
Exactly. So the Border Security Command already exists, is already commanded by a former British Army general. She's the fact that no one talks about immigration enforcement, who actually, dozens of people every week leave the country on flights, and she's going to recreate that with the returns unit, which already exists.
Okay,
And so my frustration is that we weren't talking about the full toolkit that we were using, which is perhaps why Yvette Cooper doesn't seem to understand these things already exist.
Yeah, you haven't got any flights off, by the way, have you? So...
Yes, we have, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes, we have. Aha, that caught you out, isn't it?
It has.
So the point is, so we have...
I'm not talking about the people who volunteer to go.
So
you haven't got the steam working.
Because the point being is that is part of the proof of concept. That is part of the planned approach to demonstrate that the Rwanda end of the system is ready, that the hosting environment is ready, the fact it is a safe country for asylum seekers, which we already knew because, of course, the United Nations uses Rwanda for asylum processing. So the point being is I have continued, whilst the election campaign has carried on, I have continued going into the Home Office regularly, making sure we are still on track to deliver those flights to Rwanda after the election. The only way that that's going to be stopped is if people put a Labour government who will scrap it, even though the deterrent effect is already working.
I'll let you go on about Rwanda, but let's get back to the campaign, if we may. Prime Minister talked 2 weeks ago about the moral mission of your government to reform welfare. Let's talk about morality. Is it a sign of the Conservative Party's moral decay that some of your colleagues were more interested in stuffing their own pockets by gambling on the date of the election than on helping hard-pressed families hit by the cost of living?
Well, I'm not in any way going to defend people that placed bets on that. There is an investigation by the Gambling Commission, and we have been, told very, very clearly that we are not to discuss the investigations. But the broad point is that
what you do know is that it's not just one or two people.
But as I say, look,
this is pretty thoroughgoing. There's a lot of them. As far as one can make
that's
it.
not my understanding.
There are a bunch of investigations.
No, that's not my understanding. My understanding is that it is a small number of individuals.
Well, a small number of very highly placed individuals.
But as I say, look, I'm not defending the actions. It is inappropriate, but the Gambling Commission has got a role to play. It is playing that role. We have been told that we should not discuss the details of this investigation, and so I'm going to abide by the instructions of the Gambling Commission.
Okay. You're confident, by the way, that none of your colleagues was involved in any of this? Your cabinet colleagues?
Well, as I say, I've got no reason to believe any of them were at all. As I say, the Gambling Commission has made it very, very clear we are not meant to discuss this, and so I'm going to abide by their instructions.
I'll tell you what's really puzzling here. The Gambling Commission can do what it wants to do, but the Prime Minister claims to be furious. But he says it's all got to go through this process. Why doesn't he, like any other employee might do in this situation, call in the alleged offenders, ask them, did you place a bet or did you not place a bet? The answer is binary. It's either yes or no. And if the answer is yes, sack them.
Because that's the Gambling Commission's role and responsibility.
No, he's the Prime Minister. These people work for him. He can do whatever he wants. He can just say, if it were you, he'd say, James, tell me the truth. Did you or did you not? Well, and you, being an honest man, would say yes or no.
Well, the example of Craig Williams. Craig has said what he did and has put himself into the hands of the investigators at the Gambling Commission. So I don't know what other conversations have been had. As I say, I don't necessarily know the process in detail, but the Gambling Commission is the appropriate body for this. Okay. They have said they're investigating, and they've also said that it's inappropriate for us to comment on what is a live investigation.
This is so weird. The man is the Prime Minister. He doesn't get told what to do by the Gambling Commission.
No, actually, Trevor, that's completely the opposite. The whole point of our system is that as politicians, no one puts themselves above. No one puts themselves above the law. No one puts themselves above the appropriate authority to investigate this. And the Gambling Commission is the appropriate authority. They are conducting the investigation, and we are abiding by the instructions of the investigation.
This is not the law. It's not a criminal thing. Look, the point is this. This plays into a narrative that started with parties in Downing Street. It ran through allegations of dodgy deals on PPE with ministers' pals. And now you end up with Tory officials in the bookies, and the Prime Minister saying, oh, I can't do anything about this, while the rest of the nation looks on, suffers, can't do any of this. Isn't that why you are losing voters? Because actually, every time one of these things happens, you guys come in and you say, oh, nothing to do with us. So, we can't do anything about it.
So what would you prefer? That we ignored due process? That we...
There is no due process.
Well, no, there is. The Gambling Commission is conducting an investigation,
and we are ensuring... And we are ensuring... morally wrong. Why doesn't he just do something about it? He is the boss.
Well, the appropriate thing to do is for the appropriate investigating authority to conduct that investigation. These structures are there for a reason. It is the right thing to do, and I'm quite sure that you would be very, very critical if we said, look, we are going to circumvent these organisations. We're not going to engage with these organisations.
I can give you a straight answer.
We're not going to do this. We are just going to deal with this in-house.
I can give you a very straight answer to that. I wouldn't be critical. I'd say, okay, fine.
No, Trevor, I'm going to pull you up on this, because if we did a purely internal piece of investigation and we said nothing to see here, everyone moved on, you would say, why didn't you take it to... hang on. Why didn't you take it to the Gambling Commission? Why have you done that? The point is, James, these independent bodies exist for a reason. They are doing the appropriate work, and we are letting them do their work.
Look, I mean, the reason I raise this is because all of this speaks to the Prime Minister's character and the way he carries himself, what he's telling the public. He is at the moment fighting a campaign where actually his biggest albatross problem is not so much the opposition, but your party's own history, recent history, the moral failings of Boris Johnson, the economic misjudgments of Liz Truss. Let's not go back over that, but let me just ask you, because this might be your last chance to be clear about this. What kind of Conservative Party would we be voting for? Would you, let's make it very specific, would you personally want to serve in a Conservative administration that included either Boris Johnson or Liz Truss?
Well, look, I'm not going to... I'm not going to say I'm not going to work with other Conservatives. Of course I work with other Conservatives. And that's not to say that I agree with every decision that either Liz or Boris made. Of course not. And there have been criticisms.
But given
and actually, in both cases, in both of those people that you spoke about, the Conservative Party, members of the Conservative Party took action when it was felt the decisions that those people made.
And my point
that's the point. No, but that's the point. And so, look, this election is about making sure that we remind people what is at stake here. And of course, I completely get that their voters will have frustrations with the Conservative Party. I completely get that. I completely understand why. But also, what people need to recognise is that the alternative is a party led by a man who tried to make Jeremy Corbyn a prime minister.
No, but this because I know but the point is you said this before.
Because if your argument is about judgment and character, Keir Starmer has U-turned over and over again on the commitments he made to his own party. He's basically been dishonest to his own party. Okay. So what does that indicate his relationship with the country will be?
All right, I'm asking
trying to make Corbyn. You talk about former leaders.
I'm asking
Trevor,
about the Conservative Party.
About judgment of former leaders. But elections are about choices.
I get that.
And the choice is between Rishi, who was critical of the behaviour of former leaders, or Keir Starmer, who tried to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister twice.
Okay.
Despite knowing his history,
you said it. Everybody's heard it.
Well,
let me ask.
It's about choice.
Let me ask you
about.
That's not the only choice that's open to voters, particularly voters on the centre right. It's entirely plausible, whatever the outcome of this election. The centre right's going to have to regroup. One choice is Nigel Farage. Does he have, do you think, a part to play in the future of the Conservative Party?
Well, I've said this before. He has said over and over again his motivation is complete toxicity towards the Conservative Party, and I cannot see...
As it currently is.
Well, I cannot see...
He hasn't said he would never rejoin the Conservative Party. He hates the Conservative Party as it currently is. So my point is, in the future, can you see Nigel Farage...
the short answer is no, I can't. Okay. Now, if he goes on a political journey, well, that's up to him. But as it stands at the moment, we are seeing things that are being said by members of the Reform Party at every level, which I think are completely against the principles and philosophy. One of my proudest functions in government is our support for Ukraine and its self-defence against Russia's brutality. I'm very proud of the role that we played in the Second World War, defending freedom and democracy. And when we see comments coming out of that party, which are kind of echoing Putin's lines, saying that Churchill should have appeased Hitler, I cannot envisage how attitudes like that have any home in the Conservative Party now or in the future.
You're comparing Nigel Farage to some very dangerous figures in British history. Would you say that Nigel Farage is a danger?
No, that's not what... No, that's not... No, you're trying to put words in my mouth there. What I've said is the things that he and others have said, both about the Conservative Party and about world affairs, means that they are. I cannot see how it can be a natural home for them in the Conservative Party.
All right.
We are passionate about our defence of democracy and freedom, both historically and in the here and now.
Okay.
And that just feels at odds with a lot of things.
If I may, I just want to ask you one last question. Some of your colleagues are talking about the election as a foregone conclusion. But even if you don't take that point of view, some people think that the voters might be persuaded if they thought that there would be a different kind of leadership in the Conservative Party. Major issue that could motivate right-leaning voters is the right sort of leader. Are you up for it?
Look, I've said my focus is on getting myself and my colleagues re-elected. I want to try and make sure you get enough MPs to form a Conservative majority. If that isn't the case, then we will deal with the circumstances as we find that. We want to make sure that, if we do have to hold the Labour Party to account, we'll do so. But look, my instinct is that leader of the opposition, I know what you're hinting at, leader of the opposition is not a job people should aspire to. Being in government is a job people aspire to. And look, I've made that clear that I want to make sure we get as many Conservatives elected.
Okay, I'm not hearing a no. James Clovelly, thank you very much indeed.
Trevor, thank you.